Don't you love it when things are both easier and more affordable? Like when the rain washes your car for you. Or like when you save up to 10% by bundling your renters and auto insurance with USAA. Bundle with USAA and start saving. Get a quote today.
News team, assemble!
It's back and bigger than ever. It's the unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com. Now, here's the entire Sooner Scoop crew. Carey, Josh, Eddie, and
George.
All right, we are back. It is the unofficial 40 podcast right here on Soonerscoop.com, where actually we will have the entire crew today because Bob Przybylo is going to jump on in just a little bit to talk about the NCAA tournament. He's getting ready to head to Raleigh, North Carolina, where he'll be covering the Sooners shoot-around on Thursday, and then maybe one, maybe two games, possibly, as they take on UConn to open it all up. But first, Josh, we have to give a man back his man card today. If anybody wanted to strip it away from him, I know it's been a rough week, George, with all the drill incident, but I'm here to say,
yeah, I mean,
you've redeemed yourself.
Just a bunch of old men who think I need a power drill when I live in a freaking apartment that I don't need
the
one.
The battle's been fought. I think we can call it a rest. He's redeemed himself, Josh. We got in chairs for the new studio yesterday. I had to go up to Oklahoma City to do a radio thing, so I put together one chair, and I was leaving. George said,
I said I might do one.
I might try and put the rest of them together, as what I heard.
I can't remember what I said, but I did. I put them all together.
And I thought to myself, no chance that happens. And then I came back from my jaunt up to Oklahoma City, and all the chairs were done.
I did all three. And
I
Eddie
don't know how
attest.
tight the bolts are and everything.
Yeah,
but.
Yeah, they're tight. Okay. I made sure. But yeah, put them all. It was super easy. Did all three in less than an hour.
I'm proud of you. It's a great job. You've been redeemed.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
Okay, so we are here.
Didn't need a drill for it either.
It had the when you buy chairs, the Allen wrenches are provided. So we've only put together about 50 of those things here.
I'd like to state for the record, Allen wrenches are one of the worst things ever created, and I hate them so much.
Yeah, they're not fun. I mean,
no.
I put together a laundry hamper a couple days ago with one, and it just sucked. Yeah. Anyway, Eddie, it's nice to see you again. You had late night last night with baseball, but a good result, Mr. Carmichael, with the walk-off.
Yeah, they won. I think that was probably the best thing that came out of that. Wasn't the cleanest game, but it was, I guess, a good game. I don't know. 7-6. Hit a...
Should they just stop scheduling like midweek Dallas area teams like that? That just doesn't ever seem to go well.
I think that's just the bid in college baseball. I mean, look at the scores last night. East Tennessee goes to Tennessee and wins. They are no longer undefeated. Headed to Alabama this weekend. Then OU's headed down there next weekend. But it's just weird. UTSA beat Texas last night. There was one other. Oh, Florida State got beat. Mercer put in their Friday night starting pitcher in the seventh inning last night of an 8-3 Tuesday night game. If that tells you what that means to a school like Mercer to pick up those RPI points.
That's beautiful.
Here's what looks bad: is softball's playing some team that's 2-7
and 21.
or something.
7 and 21. They're terrible. East Texas A&M. Which used to be Texas A&M Commerce.
Before they get back to SEC play, right?
Yeah, they're going to Missouri this weekend.
And they handled Arkansas last weekend, and well, not handled. It was some pretty close games, but pitching still. We can talk to Bob about that a little bit when he gets in here.
It was the hitting last weekend. They just kept hitting home runs. Gabby Garcia just every time she goes up to the plate, she hits a home run. It seems like.
And then what's up this weekend for OU baseball wise?
Mississippi State.
Oh, that's right.
Here in Norman, which last night was really windy, but great crowd. I think they got over 3,200 last night for a Tuesday night game.
I saw you and Toby both tweeting stuff out.
Yeah, I retweeted his picture. It was a really good crowd, and I think it helps that it's spring break around here. So a lot of kids, a lot of high school students. It was a really good crowd.
Parents wanting to get out of the damn house.
Sure. It was just windy. I'm sick of the wind around here.
Oh my God, it's so bad.
Last night was crazy. Leaving the ballpark because the wind picked up overnight.
I mean, Friday was its own thing. I
Yeah.
haven't even gone in the studio yet to see how dusty it is in there. But it's like 50-mile-an-hour gust up to like 6:30 tonight.
It was really bad this morning.
Yeah.
Driving over to radio, just how dark it was with all the dust in the air.
Yeah, it was not good. And it's not good, and we hate the wind. So I'm sick of Oklahoma.
I think it's supposed to be nicer this weekend, though. I
And
think it's supposed to
hopefully-
be like low 70s and light wind.
What's it supposed to be
Hopefully-
like tomorrow?
I haven't seen any fire dangers for
Because as
tomorrow.
long as we can come up here tomorrow and watch college basketball,
looking so forward to it.
without the wind.
Oh yeah, we're good. We're good to sit inside.
Well, I know,
we're
but the TV situation
Oh,
is what
yeah.
I'm saying.
Oh, the
because
powers
last
and-
week the power kept going in and out, and so the TVs would freeze up when we were watching games.
I think the wind's supposed to subside today.
You should have stayed with Eddie and I on Friday until we
I
had to
heard.
basically
8 miles
abandon
per hour tomorrow.
Good.
8 miles an
We're
hour.
good. We're good.
we should
Yeah.
go drink patio beers.
It's supposed to be a little chilly
Oh,
tomorrow, but yeah, this weekend though,
Patio
75
whiskey
on
then,
Saturday.
Carey,
is-
what do you
that's
think
all
about-
great patio weather?
Carey, what do you think about us going to a little company lunch tomorrow at Fuzzy's and getting margaritas to go, and we watch the tournament and eat chips and queso at the office?
Well, that doesn't sound like much of a field trip. That sounds like you walking down the street and bringing it back. And yes, let's do
Literally
that.
the closest
do
place
that.
to us.
I'm down.
Fuzzies.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
Yeah.
It was fun last year.
You have
Sitting
my
around here.
permission to drink in the office tomorrow. It's a holiday.
Yeah, I
Hell
have
yeah.
to work on Friday morning, so I don't think I'll do that. But I'll
Don't
have
tell
some
HR.
chips and queso for sure.
Yeah, they've got some good chips and
Good
queso.
slate tomorrow too. Really good slate.
Well, it's an NCAA tournament.
Well, sometimes you have like bad, like Thursday night is going to be okay. I think this is a good tournament just overall.
Are we? I mean, is it just going to be screaming because you've made prop bets left and right tomorrow?
There are no prop bets. We
Well-
only bet on the real actual games.
But I mean, I'm saying prop bets, but the bets where you can bet mid game and stuff like that.
I don't know. I mean, it's illegal to do that here in the state of Oklahoma. But
If it weren't, would we be in that scenario?
I'm starting to put together my bracket. I know nobody cares.
People
I
should
have-
sign up for the on-3 bracket
I have
challenge. Bob.
Auburn,
Yes.
Florida, Duke,
Absolutely.
and Houston so far,
Yeah, George just said something
winning their
important
first game over 16 seeds.
that matters to the business. Yes, go sign up for On Three's bracket challenge. Josh, do we have a contest going on the board? We need to get that going if we don't.
Well, they don't really allow like to do it singularly like we used to, like set
Okay.
up your own individual bracket. So, but they do track it. We'll reward. You know, I last year was it. It was either the tournament or one of the fantasy college football things. Like our person won it. Like won the whole damn thing.
It was the fantasy college football because
yeah, that's right. Because they got tickets to the
national championship, right?
It was a Cotton Bowl
or the
yeah,
Cotton
yeah,
Bowl.
yeah.
One of the semifinal game to watch Texas.
They got to see the Ohio State and Texas game, which again
Turned out well.
It's Texas, but you got to see ultimate pain for Texas, so there's some joy in that for you.
And what Josh hasn't told you is we're running a side survivor pool that's now over $3.2 million. So that's
It's not true
something
at all.
that we have on the side.
Not true at all.
Should be paid out in the next 100 years or so.
Yeah, so this is one of the magical sports weekends of the year coming up, March Madness. And like, don't sit there and say, oh, there's just too many games. That's the best part about it, because once
Are
it's
there
not,
people that say that?
yeah,
There's
I
too
think
many
there are
games?
people like, well, maybe not.
Those
Not anybody
people
that we
are
hang out with.
Fans, you don't
terrorists.
love this weekend.
Yeah.
Like,
No,
I
but
don't. I think it's established. I don't love college basketball, but this weekend it's fucking amazing. It's a great sport.
It's the best. Absolute best.
did not expect the first F-bomb of the pod to come from Josh, but, that happens once in a while.
Now,
Yeah.
does
Gotta keep you on toes.
do any of you guys have YouTube TV?
I don't.
No.
I am curious to know if on YouTube TV, you can do the
Quad box.
quad box. Can you do that with all four of CBS True? Because there's certain channels that it won't let you do the quad box. You know
I
what
would
I'm talking
imagine
about?
you could.
Okay.
I'm
And
guessing
if you can't,
the Paramount app, you could probably do it.
if you
Yeah.
can't, I bet you could do it through the March Madness app
Yeah.
on YouTube TV because I think that is
Part of YouTube
Part
TV.
of it, yeah.
Okay.
But I don't.
I'm not
have
as
YouTube.
familiar with YouTube TV. I just know my fiance, she has YouTube TV, and there's sometimes when I want to do the quad box, but it won't allow me to pick the ones that I want.
Well, I don't have YouTube TV, but we have the NFL ticket, and it lets you do the quad boxes with that. YouTube
Okay.
does. So,
Google AI says yes. During March Madness, YouTube TV offers a multi-view feature that allows you to watch up to 4 games simultaneously.
I want to say that's when they debuted it, like the quad box with YouTube TV. I don't know that for a fact, but we'll see. I'm excited about it. It's going to be great.
It's one of the few days a year I'm jealous of the people that have like our office setup where there's like 4 or 5 TVs in one room. Like I'd love to have that. And
our office
totally glut out.
is maybe the best place to watch the games this whole week.
Yeah, with the commentary and everything.
Now we have to lock all the doors. Thanks.
This is a message from sponsor Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was getting frustrated by your forms. Now Taxes is uploading your forms with a snap, and a TurboTax expert will do your taxes for you. One who's backed by the latest tech, which cross-checks millions of data points for absolute accuracy, all of which makes it easy for you to get the most money back, guaranteed. Get an expert now at TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live Full Service. See guaranteed details at TurboTax.com/guarantees.
Just stand outside the windows, people.
Actually, with the wind, we lock them
scene.
anyway. Yeah, because the wind actually sucks our doors open.
And there is nobody in Norman right now. Have you noticed
It's crazy
that?
how empty Campus Corner is today.
Usually, even for spring break, people usually kind of mill about. I got down here today, and it was a ghost town.
Yeah.
There was people, I guess, walking around on Monday going over to O'Connell's for the St. Patrick's stuff. But, yeah, there has not been anybody down here. It's been kind of nice.
Okay, so we've got spring football on hiatus, spring break, no practices. We did have some news coming out that OU has hired their assistant general manager to assist Jim Nagy. And we don't know a whole lot about him other than his job history.
Yeah.
I did tweet this out. Like I remember back when we were, trying to identify candidates, and I'd asked some people about, and we kind of knew, but you do the kind of regular, like, well, would Jake Rosenberg, leave, athlete group and take that job? And I think, George, you kind of heard the same thing. Like they kind of offered, or they kind of said, would you want to do this? And he was committed to, his company that he's formed.
Yeah, and I think that you're talking about Rosenberg. Yes, he a year ago when they first started talking about doing this restructuring, Rosenberg was their ideal candidate, but he wanted to stay with the athlete groups. But in terms of Taylor Redd, I think he was one of those candidates that was maybe being considered for the GM job. I think he's worked very closely with OU over the last year. He was kind of Rosenberg's right-hand man, and from what I was told, worked very closely with Brent Venables during the transfer portal, like kind of his point of contact in terms of helping with identifying guys in the portal or talking to agents, negotiations, all of those things. He was kind of their guy, and you look at his background, and on paper he seems like a perfect fit for this job, because he has college experience. He was the director of player personnel at Wake Forest at just 27 years old, then became a scout for 6 years for the Patriots, which I think is kind of his connection to Jim Nagy. And obviously Nagy's time, they didn't overlap in New England, but Nagy worked very closely with a lot of scouts, and there were still people in the Patriots front office that knew Nagy and Taylor Redd. So anyways,
do you think he knew Aaron
Hernandez?
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I mean, maybe.
He might have.
I mean, when did Hernandez play there?
Yeah.
He would have been there in 2018.
He would have been there for sure.
He was a great talent on the field.
Well,
I don't know why you have to qualify that.
Back to that kind of searching around for names, kind of knew that Jake Rosenberg was a possibility, but one person did say, you know what, the Taylor guy that was in here with him, he's very impressive.
Yeah.
And I remember us searching like, Taylor, who's this Taylor? Who's this Taylor? And when his name popped up and Pete Nakos wrote the story, I was like, okay, that's the guy that they were really impressed with.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of people that in the building that know him very well, and that's why it made it such a I don't know about easy hire, but certainly somebody they had their eye on in terms of having a position for him at OU. So I think it's a good hire. Again, it's like Jim Nagy. Like on paper, great, sounds awesome. We'll just kind of have to see what it looks like going forward, and I don't know what exactly his role is as the, quote unquote assistant GM. Like, is he going to be more focused on, contract negotiations or, identifying talent in the portal, or is he going to be high school? Like, I don't exactly know his day-to-day role, but he seems to fit a lot of what they were looking for.
It's always funny when you look back at some of the stuff that Jim Nagy said at that introductory press conference. It's like he told us again, like they basically told us again when he was talking about the cross training between the college side of it and then the NFL side of it. And the thing that stuck out to me the most was, he was the player personnel director at Wake Forest, and they found a way to win.
Yeah.
And to do that in 2017, 2018 with the recruiting classes that Wake Forest was able to put together, that's not bad. Like that's a nice little feather in the cap.
Yeah, and as we keep saying, we wonder how big his department is going to get, and I think that goes along with what you're talking about. Does he hire someone that's specifically works with contracts? Is there someone that's maybe a lawyer that he brings in on staff that is in sports and entertainment or something like that? Because it seems pretty clear. The vibe that I've got is that Jim Nagy wants to not only be about the football personnel and the evaluations, but he's not going to be afraid to dip his toes in NIL matters if he has to. And I don't know that for a fact. It's just saying I think that's a read that I get from the one press conference we've had with him and just things that we've heard him say, whether it's doing radio shows or whatever.
Yeah, I think so. And I'm interested. I'm sure he has reached out to a lot of the donors and boosters and things like that to try and say, hey, we need money to go after some of these kids, especially if they, I know that OU's operating under the assumption that the revenue share is going to happen in July, but you still have this April portal that you can go out and spend a lot of money, here in a month on some guys. And I know that they've already started looking at certain positions after a few practices that they feel like they need to go after. Corner is certainly one of them.
I think center, we've talked about that.
Center, I think that if the right wide receiver, tight end, even maybe running back comes along, they would look at it. I wouldn't be shocked if they look at safety is another position that has been talked about. So I think there's several spots that they're going to be pretty aggressive in the spring portal.
Well, one thing they need if they're looking is good vision. And Eddie knows all about having great vision, if you will.
I do. They give volume, too, which wouldn't be bad. The madness of March is all around us, Sooner fans, whether you're witnessing half-court buzzer beaters or planning full-court perennials. Clear vision is a slam dunk with $500 with my friends at LASIK or at Enjoy Vision. They're giving you LASIK. How about that? All you got to do is make a consultation appointment. I think that's what you would call it. All you got to do is go to enjoyvision.com. That is the letter NJOY vision.com to schedule your free consultation today and score $500 off LASIK. Not a bad deal, especially as we go through March Madness. Enjoy Vision. This is where Sooner Scoop LASIKs.
We told you a lot about Cody Drug. They're in Sulphur Springs, but they are licensed in Oklahoma to give you the custom GLP-1 weight loss medication. So if you are interested in that, just go to your physician, and when you get your prescription, tell them you want it filled at Cody Drug RX. Hey, will take care of you. He's really into all this stuff in terms of weight loss and health. He's got a Instagram page. It's got over 200,000 followers. He's kind of like he's like a pharmacist influencer a little bit. He'll tell you all about the different kind of supplements that you can get to help you feel better throughout the day. And you can reach out online also for a consultation. That's CodyDrugRx.com. And he'll guide you through the types and amounts of supplements tailored to your individual needs. From weight loss to wellness, Cody Drug specializes in helping you feel better. Visit CodyDrugRx.com to get started. And,
he's like the legal Ross Ulbricht.
I don't know who that is, but I'm sure it's a terrible person.
It is. He did the Silk Road. That you could buy like drugs off the internet, and then he went to prison for like 40 years. I think President Don just got him out. I think he just got out of jail.
Who was the guy that was selling, was marking up the drugs? Martin something?
Martin Shkreli?
Was it Shkreli? Yeah.
Something like that.
He was a bad
That guy's an
too.
asshole.
Yeah. And it was like age drugs, wasn't it? In Africa?
Yeah, I think so. And then it was also, what's it called? Insulin, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Probably. Okay, so
I don't know. That's just what MSN.
Will does not do any of that stuff. He's above the board 100%. So
great guy, good friend,
and a big NIL guy too. So he's paying paying for the players that you're rooting for out there. The other news I think that's really big right now, and when Bob gets in here, we'll talk some more about it, but lots of smoke out there. Well, not lots, but smoke starting to form on Porter Moser and Villanova rumors.
Yeah, listen, I think that like my initial read on it was, I would think that this is a massive hire for Villanova. Obviously,
it's not gone well since Jay Wright retired.
No, it did not go well at all. I don't know. I really don't know. But if I'm Porter Moser and Villanova approaches me, of course, you got to go. Like, I don't think there would be much of a question. It would be the ultimate irony, though, that Oklahoma got to the NCAA tournament and then he was the one that left. But I have no idea. I think that that's something that is certainly out there and certainly something that we're paying attention to here moving forward over the next couple of days.
I would say, too, that there's enough smoke at this point that I think there's certainly some interest. I just don't know what Villanova's list is. Who's on the top? Who's the top candidate on their list?
And do they
where's
think they're
Porter
maybe
on
better
that?
than a Porter Moser?
Yeah.
That's kind of the question is because I think this is one of those hires that you have to nail if you're Villanova. And it just, I don't know where they would go. Obviously, I don't think that I could have predicted that Darren DeVries would end up at Indiana.
Yeah.
And he leaves West Virginia.
My God. I mean, look, we've all seen just fans get hammered. Like the worst, Lincoln Riley. I mean, really this last 4 months or so. I mean, OU fans have had it back. You feel for what West Virginia is going through as a fan base right now to get screwed out of the tournament, basically have your governor embarrass you because North Carolina played so well last night, and then to have your coach bolt on you in the matter of 72 hours, it's just unthinkable. Well, it's more than 72, but less than a week.
If you really wanted to be a West Virginia basketball fan, I guess you could go glass half full and say, well, if he was going to go to Indiana, I'm glad that we didn't make the tournament because you can get started on this search right now. If they would have made the tournament, they would have had to, gone into maybe next week.
But then would Indiana have hired him?
I don't know. I really don't know. I would imagine because it seems like Indiana, it's one of those jobs.
Is that a good hire, Eddie? I don't know much about him.
He's a really good coach. I just the landscape of college basketball is just fascinating to me right now, considering that you have teams going in the NCAA tournament, like at Texas tonight, that I think that Kirk Bohls put out. It's still a popular belief that if they don't win tonight and they're a 3.5-point underdog to Xavier, that they would move on from Rodney Terry, and then that job opens, and it's all a domino. It seems like
they're just in that place to where kind of OU fans were with Porter, where it's you're just looking for a reason to fire him.
Yeah, Texas talking about Rodney Terry. Yeah, and the crazy thing too is Villanova's job's open right now. Doug Collins' name has been attached to that. Who's the head coach at Northwestern, which if Northwestern came open, I think that then obviously
Porter's back in play.
Yeah, getting Porter back to Chicago would definitely be in play. That's a domino that I could see happening.
And Will Wade confirms that he's talked to NC State.
Yeah, I bet he ends up at NC State or Texas or Oklahoma.
Bob is,
and I say that because that's what I want to happen.
Bob, I know we're not talking too much basketball. We're leaving you plenty of room, so don't freak out on us. We're just kind of glossing over the big news in the sporting world right now, and as we said, Porter. We'll talk a little bit more about that and get Bob's thoughts on where things stand, and what he thinks might where Porter's headspace might be in this thing. Go ahead, George.
I just wanted to add that there's been a lot of people asking me about is basketball looking at hiring a general manager like OU did in football. I think that's been a big topic. I believe they are. They are looking at hiring a general manager. I don't think that search has necessarily started, but they've been doing some research on what a candidate would look like, what they would want it to look like, and I think that there's a chance they hire somebody, I don't know, in the next few months as a GM for the basketball program.
They should target the Thunder organization.
That'd be awesome.
Or Blake Griffin or Rinzai Stone.
I don't know if Rinzai would want to.
They should definitely
I'm just throwing out OU great.
Definitely get Blake Griffin involved. That'd be awesome.
Yeah,
I bet Taylor Griffin would be great.
You could hire Blake or Taylor to do the role that Steph's doing with Davidson,
assistant,
literally
GM,
across the country.
Yeah,
doesn't seem like you have to be in the office too much.
Yeah,
It seems like Buddy Hield would be best for that.
Buddy'd be great. I don't know if Buddy wants to do it. Warriors playing pretty well.
A lot of money. But no, George, that's huge because I think a lot of people question like, what is Joe C's commitment to basketball? And I think a lot of people would just assume, well, he'll just let basketball be basketball.
Yeah.
But if he's going to build a front office for basketball, that to me signals big commitment.
Yeah, and I don't want people to get the impression that it's going to be like the football front office where it's, they're hiring all these people. I don't think it's going to look like that. I don't really know. I'm not sure they know, but I do think that they would like to have somebody in a general manager position that can work on stuff like player retention, portal evaluations, stuff that can just take, off of whoever the head coach's plate is. Like, I think that is important, and you're seeing it across college basketball. You're seeing a lot of programs have a general manager type person that helps them with those type of things because the roster turnover's gotten so crazy.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? Well, with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills. Wait, did I say job title yet? Get started today and see how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
And I could see, them hiring someone like with football. We're talking about maybe someone with, might be a lawyer, like hiring someone for that for all the athletic department that would cover basketball, women's, men's, whatever sports are left when at the end of the day. And the other thing I would say that we didn't get into with, you mentioned the July 1st. I think we have to separate all this into two different categories when you talk about money and paying players. You have revenue share and then you have NIL. And I think you can get to revenue share. I think that's possible. I still don't believe that's going to happen July 1st. Just my own personal opinion because this is such a mess. But to me, it's important to distinguish the two because revenue share can happen, probably will happen first. The NIL thing, I just don't see how you're going to control that part of it. So I think there's always going to be money on top of revenue sharing that is probably more money than people are realistically should be paid. I think the pay-for-play portion of NIL is going to stay intact for a while because the minute you tell someone, well, that deal isn't realistic, that deal isn't worth the market value, they're going to sue and they're going to win because you cannot restrict someone from making money.
Yes, I agree.
So anyway, we can leave it at that. Josh, let's hit on some recruiting stuff. I know, you've got spring break and coaches are taking a well-deserved vacation, so not a lot of activity as well there. But you talked in the recruiting report earlier this week. The running back stuff seems to be close to shaking out. I think since we did that, Caden has set his official commitment date as well.
He's going to decide a week from today. Caden Jones from Jinx, obviously son of Keywan. He will announce a week from today on Wednesday. We talked about it on Monday that I felt like there was a lot still kind of playing out, and I think the reality is Oklahoma's hope is to get one of either Jonathan Hatton from Cibolo Steel, the longtime commitment, or Caden Jones out of Jinx. My impression is probably that Hatton would be the preference. I think he's, you look at all the rankings, you look at offer lists, like Hatton's a guy that could have gone just about anywhere he wanted to go. Ohio State, Alabama, you kind of name it. So at the same time, we talked on Monday about Hatton, and it kind of felt like there was some momentum for OU, but I kept saying, like, I don't know. I'm not going to go to sleep on A&M. And it feels like a lot of the predictions, the thoughts for Oklahoma, feels like that's starting to be reeled back in a little bit. I think A&M has redoubled efforts this week and definitely is going to make it very, very hard for him to say no. And if that's the case, then Caden Jones becomes a very clear and present need for Oklahoma.
Is there a chance, Josh, they miss out on both by the end of March, but then maybe they are able to circle back with one of them?
That would be – you'd have to think. With Jonathan Hatton, I don't know. I don't know why they would suddenly have an advantage unless – the only thing I could think of is if they went out on the field, A&M kind of struggled, and Oklahoma seemed like they kind of found themselves. Like maybe that could sway him because, I mean, he was committed through last year. He saw how rough that was, and all he's heard, I have no doubt, for the last week is, you can commit to those guys, but they're not going to be there. We've heard a lot of guys mention how much schools are using that against Oklahoma right now. So, yeah, I mean, maybe in that case. But with Caden, obviously, the emotional pull, like all the connection he has, he's known DeMarco, forever. Like there's just a lot there that connects he and OU. And you would feel like, okay, maybe right now, maybe OU's been pushing for Hatton. And this is just me playing a hypothetical. Maybe they've been pushing for Hatton, kind of had Jones on the back burner a little bit. And they come back and say, look, hey, we messed up. We want you to come down. We're going to, we want you to know how important you are to our class in 26 and kind of move forward in that vein and really try to win him over time. And I still think they would have a very good chance. So even if OU loses out next week, I don't think I would close the book on Caden Jones in Oklahoma.
I guess that kind of answers my question just in terms of how serious is a Louisville? How serious is a Kansas, an Oklahoma State?
The school I've heard for several weeks is Kansas. Like that's been a very real conversation. I have heard their NIL, they are starting to put that together and have made him a strong offer from everything I've gathered. So I don't think it's anything that OU just can't match. I think it's a question of, guys, you were just talking about Nagy and all those things. Like, what does Rosenberg, what does Nagy, what does Brent Venables, what do they say about an in-state running back that has connections? Like, how far are they willing to go to land Caden Jones? I think that's a valid question. And, guys, to me, if I'm rebuilding a roster, running back's one of my last concerns. Like, that's just not where I'm going to put my money unless I'm Ohio State or Texas where money is just growing on trees and it doesn't matter. If I've got to make strategic choices, running back's just not where I'm going to start.
And something that we haven't talked a lot about, but you have to remember with, and not saying this plays into Hatton and Jones, but you have to talk about, you brought in some NFL guys like a Jim Nagy. The thing in the NFL that has been the trend now in previous years is, the devalue of running backs and how teams view that you can just go out and get running backs. You don't need a superstar. Now, if you can get a Saquon Barkley, obviously you do. But I wonder, when it comes to offering these kids money at that position, if OU will maybe not, offer as much as other schools will at, for some of those kids at that position.
Well, and it also, George, it's how do you value that player? Like you said, if it's Saquon Barkley, okay, we're going to find some money for that. Like, or Adrian Peterson for Oklahoma fans, like somebody that is truly a unique and special talent. I don't know. I mean, in any given year, guys, there might be two running backs, maybe, that are worthy of that kind of conversation. There's just not that many guys that are that special. Because look at Penn State's a great example. Their current senior backfield, one was the huge five-star. Jonathan Singleton was a huge deal. And the other guy was a good recruit, but he was not considered at the same level. And now they're fairly comparably thought of and haven't really had that different of careers. And Singleton, like I said, was kind of like, oh, that's the next Saquon. That's the next guy. And when you watch them, like, I like Singleton better, but like I don't think if Penn State didn't have him, you'd suddenly feel that differently about where they are as a program right now.
Anything else that we want to hit on? Just maybe that's changed since Monday.
No, there's nothing huge. I mean, obviously, you got some guys coming in next week. I mentioned probably the most notable one that I'm kind of interested to see is Cooper Witten, the big-time guy from Argyle Liberty Christian, Jason Witten's kid. I think that's an interesting visit that I think, everybody kind of just, he's going to Tennessee, he's going to Tennessee. I can't tell exactly at this point if this is more of a, I don't want to give everybody the impression I'm going to Tennessee, so I'm going to go do some other stuff. But when I talk to Cooper, when I talk to people around that situation, he seems pretty open to things, and his father's relationship with DeMarco Murray just can't be overstated. I mean, every time OU has its doors open, you tend to see Jason Witten somewhere nearby, kind of hanging out and doing stuff. So they're there all the time.
Any impressions that you took from now that Bowe Bentley has started taking some visits? I mean, obviously, it seemed like, from a few comments I read, seems like he was pretty impressed with LSU.
He's at Ohio State today.
Yep. And I still, I want to check back after these visits are done to hear a little more. LSU has always kind of been the school that I was like, I'm going to watch them. Like, that felt like that was close enough to home that maybe they could make a run. And now, we've seen it. LSU spending money now, like the whole Brian Kelly thing of 18 months ago where, we're not buying players. That crap stopped because now they have money, so you don't have to make that case anymore. So it's a little different conversation. But I think OU's got to work out what's happening with Jaden O'Neal. Because to me, if there was a spot open, I think Bowe Bentley would have made a decision by now. That's just how I feel about it. At the same time, I'm not saying he wouldn't go in a 2-quarterback class, but it gives him there's a cause for pause there. You're going to think about, why would I do this? What am I thinking about here? That's just another hurdle for me to have to clear when I can go and be the guy at LSU or one of these other programs. So with Ohio State, obviously they're going to roll out the red carpet, and I have no doubt he'll come back and say a lot of positive things. I've just heard a lot of talk that maybe that's farther than he wants to get from home.
Yeah. And like you said, it's also tough to have that NIL discussion when you have 2 quarterbacks.
Absolutely. That's, it's not just them. It's OU. We hear we know who what it is. Almost every signing class in the country, their most expensive player is the quarterback that they have signed. You're going to sign 2 of them that are highly elite guys. That's a real drain. And if you're having, we were just talking about with running backs, when you're having to make tough decisions for what you're paying the quarterback that you may see as your number 2 option among the 2. Because, I don't care what OU says. There's a preference. There's somebody they prefer of the 2, someone they'd rather have or is more important to what they're trying to do. That's just common sense.
And was there
any time?
I'm sorry.
Yeah. And no, Carey, for what you're going to pay the guy who is the number 2 option, you could have 2 defensive linemen. You could have 2 offensive linemen. You could start to build a deeper, better class instead of just, this guy's going to be here a year and then probably transfers out when he figures out he's not the guy.
Yeah. And has there been any, buzz or fallout or scuttlebutt about Jaden O'Neal? Because he went to Georgia, right? Since it was announced that he had a scholarship.
He did, and he talked to our Georgia site, and I kind of thought Jaden would play that closer to the vest than he did, and he was very oh man, the competition level was different than anywhere I've been. Very what he didn't ever mention OU by name, but you're I know what you're saying here, man. This sounds pretty positive for Georgia. I've got to think right now, even if he wants to pull the trigger, Georgia is waiting to see what happens with Jared Curtis. If Jared Curtis picks Oregon, which a lot of people think is going to happen, then they then have a true opening for who the next quarterback's going to be. Yeah, they've offered Bentley, but so far, nothing's happened there. So you wonder if O'Neal would be the guy they'd really go push for. And if that's the case, guys, how many times has Oklahoma held out against Georgia in recent years? It's not often.
I wonder who's making their call on quarterback. Is Bobo still there?
Oh, it's Bobo. Run the dang ball, Bobo.
Yeah. I'm surprised that. Yeah, I got to think he's a little bit on the hot seat.
As bad as Carson Beck looked last year from the year before, I'm a little shocked.
It would seem to me that with everything that continues to come out of Miami, that Carson Beck might just be a kind of a stupid person. Yeah. He might just be a dumb, not a very intelligent
just a meathead.
Person. Yeah. And he sucked last year. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's okay to be that guy if you're if you're Cam Ward at Miami. Okay, man, live your life. Do whatever you want to do, but don't have a 2-to-1 touchdown interception and be a dumbass. That doesn't work very well.
All right, that's just about going to do it for me. I'm going to let Bob come in here, but first I want to tell you guys about Factor. We've talked to you about Factor before. George and I have both been Factor guys over the last year or so, but they do have chef-made gourmet meals that make eating well really easy. They're dietitian approved, ready to heat and eat in 2 minutes. So you can feel really good, and you'll have great fuel. You want to go like George, you can go vegetarian if you want to. You can go beef. You can go. They got great salmon selections, but it's very chefy stuff, but it's very easy to prepare.
Yeah, I think that's what makes it really good. Is like it doesn't take. You don't have to be really smart to cook this food. And my fiance cooks really well, but I don't. And so when
the flavors are great. It's
when I'm alone, I use it a lot, and it's the flavors are great. And you have different options. You have 40 options over 8 dietary preferences on the menu each week. It's easy to pick meals tailored to your goals. And you have stuff like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, or Keto. So you have different options if you're trying to bulk up or maybe lose some pounds.
Yeah, I've done the Calorie Smart and the Protein Plus, and both liked all of it. Eat Smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/factorpodcast and use the code Factor Podcast to get 50% off your first box. Plus, you get free shipping. That's code Factor Podcast at factormeals.com/factorpodcast to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box.
50%. That's a lot.
That's a lot. So you got to take advantage of that, definitely. And heat and eat, good stuff. Way better than any frozen food you're going to get in the grocery store.
For sure.
All right, let's bring in Bob Przybylo next, and we'll get into a little bit of NCAA tournament talk with the men and women.
Welcome back. I think this is now the official SoonerScoop.com NCAA tournament preview. Welcome in, Bob Przybylo. Robert, hello. How are we?
Doing all right. Getting ready to leave.
Are you packed up and ready to go to Raleigh? Have you ever been to Raleigh, North Carolina?
I don't go to the East Coast ever. I have not been to either of the Carolinas.
Does this count as a coast? Does this? I know North Carolina is on the east side, but I think of East Coast, I would think like New York City or Boston or Providence.
It's on the East Coast.
All right, that's fair. We'll take it. Oklahoma, obviously, we did the instant reaction after Sunday night, headed to Raleigh as the 9 seed, taking on two-time defending national champion UConn. I think we've talked about them a little bit on the Hoops Report, but let's start here. Well, let's start with the tournament stuff, then we'll get to Moser in a second. Obviously, they got their work cut out for them. This is a UConn team that, certainly they've had their fair share of struggles, but I think that's in consideration with where they've
where
been.
You thought they would be.
Sure. Too. I remember we were talking about.
Just go back to Maui.
Yeah, we were talking about the Maui situation. They look like shit out there.
But that's because you thought they were the second best team in the country. If you just think, oh, they're a tournament team, well, yeah, they're definitely a tournament team, and they're definitely a team that will give OU a lot of struggle. Dan Hurley's going to have them ready. And, I don't want to say it's as simple as Jeremiah Fears versus Liam McNeely, but it might come that way when McNeely is on. He was talked about in the same breath as Cooper Flagg going into the year. Hasn't quite turned out that way. But if you're looking for someone to kind of turn that corner or turn that switch to right a wrong of what he thought was the season, he could do it during this next couple weekends.
Liam McNeely's been fantastic. 5-star kid. He was a McDonald's All-American. He was actually the highest ranked recruit that UConn's ever brought in, or not ever brought in, but the highest ranked since 2011. Big East Freshman of the Year. He's been phenomenal for them. And even in some of the stretches where Alex Caravan really shot the ball poorly, it was Liam McNeely that has kind of been the guy that they would go get points from, whether if it's not Solo Ball, one of the best three-point shooters in the country. I think the biggest number for me going into this on Friday night, which, by the way, they play at 8:30, 9:30 out there on the East Coast. I guess it is the East Coast, technically. They've been terrible. They've been terrible defensively, UConn has this year. Last year, they were fourth in adjusted defensive efficiency. They were 7th in 2024, 4th in 2023. the two national championship years. They're 94th this year. And if Oklahoma, I feel like, wants to win this game on Friday night, they're going to have to do two things. They're going to have to take advantage of UConn's inability to guard the three-point line. You're going to have to make a bunch of threes. So you're going to need a big night from Jeremiah Fears, obviously.
Bryson
Duke
Goodine.
Miles, Bryson Goodine.
Kobe Elvis.
Bryson Goodine, I did not realize is from up in that area, I think, in Massachusetts. But they've been terrible to defend the three-point line. So I don't know. The other thing, they're 325th in free throw rate allowed. So the other team shoots 22 free throws, which we would think would play into Oklahoma's hands, as well as they've shot from the free throw line this year outside of the last 5 minutes. But they need to get to the free throw line. Other teams are shooting 22 free throws a game against UConn. And then the blocks. That's the big situation to me.
Yep.
Like the guys inside, whether it be, obviously the starter, Terrace Reed Jr. was the Big East sixth man of the year. I think top 20 or top 5 nationally in blocks per game.
Eddie, they got to add you to the scouting team over at OU. My goodness.
This is UConn. This is the full preview. We're getting into it, George.
I mean, this
you
is
need their net rating.
You just went on like a 5-minute breakdown
of UConn.
That's UConn. So what do you guys think? No, I got more stuff. They were top 20 in assists per game.
He does have more
top
stuff,
20 in assist to turnover ratio, top 20 in free throw percentage. So they do score. They've been top 15 nationally in offensive efficiency. It's just the defense thing. They have not been able to get stops. And when you see some of their losses, especially over the last month, which they actually did play well. They won 4 games going into the Big East tournament before getting beat by Creighton. I don't know. The more I look at some of the UConn numbers, like when it was initially announced, it's like, okay, OU could go up there and play well. I think it's going to be really, really tough.
It'll be really, really tough. I think we all knew it going into that final bracket. We thought, okay, 7-10 versus Kansas, or 8-9 against UConn, because those were those two teams that hadn't been announced yet.
You turned to me on Sunday night and was like, it's going to be 7-10. I was like, I think it is.
7-10 Kansas. I think you'd almost rather have taken that compared to getting the more respect of being a number 9, but now going against the Huskies. And it will be interesting because what we've seen from Jeremiah Fears in terms of drawing fouls, getting to the foul line. So you mentioned something like that. Can he get OU into bonus early to where they're shooting, more than 20 to 25 free throws? And can they make enough three-pointers to slow up or to make UConn speed up? Because it likes to go slow. Huskies are not a run and gun type of team. So can OU put a little pressure on them and get UConn out of its comfort zone? Basically, who is forced to play the game that they don't want to?
Sure. I think that, the guy for them that has kind of been the key, and I think if he would have played a little bit better, and he's been a part of the last 2 national championship teams, Alex Caravan has started to shoot the ball extremely well in the month of March. He's 17 for 24 from 3, and I think that kind of goes hand in hand with them starting to play a little bit better, in all aspects and winning games. So it's kind of funny. We talk about you just ask somebody how UConn's season went, you would say they've been complete shit by their standards, which they set for themselves to a certain extent, but they're still pretty damn good. I mean, Ken Palm, 35 going into the tournament. They were 23-10, third in the Big East, which St. John's has been a phenomenal story. I don't know. What do you think of Sam Godwin's availability going into Friday? We saw him Sunday. I noticed he was definitely walking with a limp. We talked about that on the instant reaction. I just don't know what's realistic that you can get out of him.
It's not realistic. I just think Porter Moser doesn't want to tell the world that here's a kid that's fought through everything from, being a walk-on to being on scholarship to being a part of the team that was the initial team out last year and finally got everything that he had wanted and been hoping for, and you're just going to say, there's no way he's playing. So I think he keeps saying his progress is good. I know he's slowly working out. I don't think he's going to be ready for Friday, and even if he was, I don't know how much he could realistically give you, but I think they don't want to let, just kind of close the door on Sam, because you've been here through the thick and thin. He's being the cheerleader. He's coaching up Luke. He's coaching up Mo. I don't see him playing Friday, though.
So good, so good, so good.
Easter deals starting at just $25 are at Nordstrom Rack stores now. And that means tons of fresh reasons to rack.
They've got the best gifts.
Because I always find something amazing.
Save on Easter finds from Kate Spade New York, Calvin Klein, MAC Cosmetics, and more. Great brands, great prices. That's why you rack.
Yeah, it's and that certainly would probably put even more, I guess, pressure, expectation, whatever you want to call it, on somebody like Moegwe. That I don't know why I always say that.
That's bad, Eddie.
I know.
It's
just in my brain, I think, and I'm not sure. That's my fault.
Here, I got
my
a question.
Apologies.
I got a question, Bob. Who's the guy? We know Jeremiah Fears is kind of the key. Jalen Moore, leader. Who's somebody that you're like, they could be, if they're going to, have a big performance, who could be like the X factor? Who's the guy that could have a moment? Is it like a Goodine who could come in and hit, 6 straight threes and give you a huge boost? Is it a Duke Miles? Like, who do you think could be like the tournament hero for Oklahoma other than, the obvious choices?
For me, it is Duke. I just think this team is different when Duke is playing at a very high level. But there are games where if he doesn't have it going the initial 5 minutes, he'll kind of disappear. He'll fade into the background. You look at his box score, like 3 or 4 points, couple rebounds, and like you didn't even know he was out there. So he has to play with a lot of confidence. He just has to be in control. We've seen too many times. He dribbles in traffic, you're holding your breath. That thing's about to be stripped or he's going to lose it. And taking care of the ball is going to be imperative. If you're not going to have as many possessions because of the way that Connecticut plays, as Porter would say, you're going to have to value every single one of them. This can't be one of those 4 turnovers and 5 possessions type of games, and you end up with 16 to 18 when it's all said and done. So if Duke can't keep it under control, you're going to have to find someone else. Although Kobe Elvis has done a great job.
I was going to say Kobe Elvis is the guy. I think you need one of at least Duke Miles, Kobe Elvis, or Bryson Goodine.
That's why you brought them.
Yeah,
they're guys that have played for like 20 years of college basketball. They want this moment. Now they're here. Go ahead and make the most of it.
I've loved Kobe Elvis's game though lately.
He's been awesome.
Yeah.
He did what Waldo Suarez did last year. He accepted coming off the bench. He accepted what his role is going to be. He figured out how to adjust to make it work. And he's done a great job of taking care of the ball. There's been a lot of times too. I think he's given Jeremiah Fears some much needed break in terms of handling the ball. They're on the court together, but when they're on the court together, a lot of times Kobe will bring it up, and then Fears can work his way back into the flow of the offense and still might end up with the ball in the final 10 seconds on the shot clock, but it's allowing him to breathe just a little bit, try to get that second win, because it would not shock me if Fears plays like 37 to 38 minutes if he's not in foul trouble.
What are they going to do inside in the front court? They obviously can't match up with Terrace Reed, Solomon, or Samson Johnson. Even Carabane goes down and plays a little bit inside. I don't know how you stay out of foul trouble.
Yeah.
If you're Wegway, or Wiggy, God damn it,
Wiggy, you got it.
I don't understand it. I don't know. And I guess that's where Luke's going to have to play some big minutes. And, I think for the most part, it was kind of encouraging to see him be able to bang inside with some of the bigger bodies that he did in the SEC tournament. But I feel like this is a little bit different.
That's what the TV mentioned. He looks exhausted 3 minutes into the second half. Like, that's playing a different brand of game than what he knows. So you appreciate it. He's just got to, it's so much with confidence with him. You can see it on his face. Like,
sure.
If he's down in the dumps, he's a much different player compared when he's really competing and trying to get in there. And we know he can shoot the three. He's been able to do that his entire career. But the fact that he's been willing to try to score in the paint, that's something, even if it's just a bucket or two, that means the world this time of year.
Be nice to get a couple rebounds as well. Terrace Reed's an animal on the board. So I don't know. It's a tough draw. I don't think that they necessarily got helped getting the 9 seed versus the 10 seed, but you can't do anything about it now.
And then the 1 seed's Florida. Like, you're trying to avoid your conference foes, and obviously you couldn't do that because 14 of them made it, but to have to, if you somehow get through this, then you go to Florida, and the Gators just look like an unstoppable machine at this point.
They were a machine in Nashville.
There's nothing you can do, and we saw what they did against Gainesville. I know it wouldn't be over 15 minutes into the game, but that would still be just an incredibly uphill climb. But one, obviously, that OU would love to try to make.
I think it was John Rothstein that put it out there earlier this week on PMT, actually, that was talking about, if this Florida team was coached by Billy Donovan right now, they would be not just the odds-on favorite to win the national championship, they might be a large favorite as well as they've been playing. And, I think they've won like 12 of the last 13. Only loss was to Georgia on February, I think it was the end of February 28th, 26th, something like that. And it was still a game that they had a shot to go take the lead with 30 seconds left. So I don't know. It's going to be tough. I'm excited about the tournament. Just overall, do you have any big takeaways before we get to some of the Porter Moser news?
No, I mean, you look at it, you feel like the 4 number 1 seeds have been head and shoulders above the rest of the field. So you never want to go chalk, but you look at this year, it's like, I don't know who's going to upset the apple cart here. Those 4 number 1s have looked the part the entire year.
Over under 1.5 SEC teams making the Final Four.
I'm
taking the over. I think
just looking over the bracket. I don't know. I think that I would not be surprised if it went under. I just don't like when you get to the NCAA tournament. I think that Tennessee is extremely good, but they go through scoring droughts sometimes. Alabama, I don't know
What's
what
up with
they
Grant
are.
Nelson?
Grant Nelson injury news is certainly interesting. I don't think that you're going to have to play him against Robert Morris, but if you played St. Mary's, and who I think will beat Vanderbilt, that would be a challenge. Auburn didn't necessarily play well at the end of the year. They lost 3 of 4 going into the NCAA tournament, but at the same time, they've been the best team all year.
Yeah, did that feel like an NFL team that knew they had their spot locked
a little bit,
Like,
a little
all
bit.
right, we're good.
I think they're going to make the Final Four, and I think
Who?
Auburn. I think Auburn and Florida are going to make the Final Four.
That's the one. Auburn is the one number 1 seed. Everyone said, I think Michigan State can take them down.
Sure.
Like, if you're looking for people for not a number 1 seed, people love Sparty. So that I think Auburn does run that table though.
It wouldn't. It's kind of funny because you look at the 2 number 1 seeds, Auburn and Houston are 2 of the 4. Their toughest road to get to the regional final might be in the second round, in the round of 32. Yeah. If Louisville beats Creighton, and Louisville's playing in basically its own backyard in Lexington, and then I have no idea what the committee was doing putting Gonzaga as an 8 seed. Top 10 in Ken Pom. They played extremely good basketball at the end of the year, winning the West Coast Conference, avenging 2 losses to St. Mary's. It's such a bad draw for them to have to play Houston, and then reversely for Houston to look up and have to play this 8 seed if they're able to get through the first round in Gonzaga, who's made they're going for 10 straight Sweet 16s. That's insane.
I think that's right. Yeah, and you usually get a much better seed than that. But to be at that line, and I think we all agree they're probably going to win that 8-9 matchup. Houston Gonzaga, that might be one of your marquee matchups of the entire tournament. Maybe
Ace and Newell goes in fuego and scores 30 and beats Gonzaga. I don't know. Probably not. We shall see. All right, let's get into a little bit of the news that we were talking about when you got here, Bob. There's certainly a lot of rumors out there right now with Porter Moser and Villanova. Obviously, that job comes open last Saturday. Just kind of your overall thoughts, anything that you've heard, and kind of where Oklahoma would go from there.
Right. I mean, when you hear it Saturday, you dismiss it initially, and then you're like, wait a minute, you don't dismiss anything completely. Let's look a little bit more into this. Then you start digging around, and Jay Wright just being a huge fan of Porter Moser. How much sway does Jay Wright have at this point with everything that he's accomplished at that university, all the national championships? Can he be someone that kind of gets to almost quote unquote make the call and say, this is who I want, this is who the guy I think can lead this program? And it's fun because anytime it was mentioned, people had to hedge. Like, that's not the big name splash. Porter clearly has no ties to Philly. It doesn't make sense in terms of that. But as the week has progressed, definitely momentum has picked up. And I don't know who their number 1 choice would be at this moment, if you believe Ryan Odom's going to Virginia, and that is locked up.
It would be super interesting. It definitely seems like Virginia Commonwealth and Ryan Odom heads into their final little extravaganza together as one, because it definitely seems like he's headed to Virginia to take over for Tony Bennett, or he ends up over at maybe Villanova. I don't know. Like, and the other thing that's out there is, I think John Fanta or somebody had thrown it out there. Doug Collins, if he were interested in Villanova, was interested in him, or Chris Collins, Doug Collins would be a bad hire. I think he's getting a little old. If Chris Collins ended up going to Villanova, all of a sudden a spot opens up in Evanston, Illinois, on the banks of Lake Michigan. And would Porter Moser be interested in that?
Go back, exactly.
The ultimate irony, though, just in terms of Oklahoma finally making an NCAA tournament and maybe still losing their coach.
Look around. You can find cars like these on AutoTrader, like that car riding your tail. Or if you're tailgating right now, all those cars doubling as kitchens and living rooms are on AutoTrader, too. Are you working out and listening to this ad at the same time? Well, multitasking pro, cars like the ones in the gym parking lot are for sale on AutoTrader. New cars, used cars, electric cars, maybe even flying cars. Okay, no flying cars, but as soon as they get invented, they'll be on AutoTrader. Just you wait. AutoTrader.
Still losing the coach. Not having to pay the buyout, I'm sure, that would be something that you'd have to look at. I feel like I might be talking out of turn. I just feel like there's a sense of frustration from Moser with everything he's tried to do in terms of fan engagement, in terms of attendance, and a lot of that people would piggyback and just say, anytime you want us to show up, you laid the egg.
Yeah.
And I agree for the initial 3 seasons, but after the Texas game, it's like no one decided to show up again. When you're playing ranked teams on Saturday afternoons to half-empty buildings, I don't know, and you dominate Vandy by 30 and you beat Mississippi State. Those crowds, I mean, that's just really, really tough to reconcile and say, you know what? I still want to put all my heart and effort into trying to build this up when I don't know if you really can.
I mean, he'd be crazy not to at least entertain the Villanova, and try to pitch himself for that job. I mean, that'd be a hell of a job for him.
No, 100%.
I think we're more so. I thought they would go after maybe a bigger name than Porter.
Yep.
I think Porter's a good basketball coach, and he'd probably do well there. But
I think he would have success.
But I just thought there would be bigger names that they'd go after. Even Collins at Northwestern. It's like, well, what exactly has he done at Northwestern that's been so
got him to win? I think that's probably the most. The biggest thing.
It's like you're Villanova. Like, you should be able to go out and get a bigger name.
I went through this that thought exercise myself because I had the same kind of instant reaction. Was I thought they would go in knowing how big this hiring is in wake of what Kyle Neptune wasn't able to do. I just don't like a big name. I think as much as an Oklahoma fan probably doesn't want to admit it, is Porter Moser. I mean, you look at the NCAA tournament this weekend. I think that they're the only matchup between coaches that have been in the Final Four, Dan Hurley and Porter Moser, in the last 10 years, like that are coaching against one another. It's kind of crazy. I mean, I think that obviously Oklahoma fans.
Calipari himself.
10 years? Yeah, I guess that's probably another one, isn't it?
Yeah.
When did Kentucky play?
That was 2015 was their undefeated.
So that was
10 years ago.
Was technically, I guess, 11.
Yeah. Jeez.
I don't know. It will be super, super interesting. I think that, obviously that's going to be one of the benefits of you headed out to Raleigh, boots on the ground in case anything does happen or if anything does pop or if you can talk to anybody within the OU administration to kind of get a feel for where this thing's at, because I think it is kind of turned up a notch just in terms of like, okay, this is probably pretty serious. They need to start exploring, okay, how serious is it on the Moser side of things?
I know, we flipped it over, right? After the LSU game, he's fired. You're working on the buyout money, and then you go through this stretch, and maybe the right job happens to open. Because I think a lot of people have sort of assumed, I think Porter loved taking the chance going to a football school, but maybe would love to go back to where it's the only game in town. And Villanova fits that to a T. We thought that last year might be the deal with Creighton. If McDermott would have went to the Buckeyes, and that would have been a domino that would have fallen, but that didn't happen. So it's not as crazy as it sounded Sunday. It's not as definite as some people might already want it to be.
That sounds about like the internet age. Everybody wants it to happen immediately, and it's not quite there yet. It will be interesting, though, to see where Villanova pivots, because I think with Indiana, basically hiring Darren DeVries yesterday on Tuesday, Villanova's probably the best job out there right now. When you add in NC State's probably in the mix. We'll see what happens at Texas. Will OU and Texas be going head-to-head for somebody in the near future if they're both open? It'll be really interesting to see what happens.
The thing that would change with Texas, I don't think Terry's looking to leave.
I think he's going to get fired.
But, is making the tournament enough to not get fired?
I would say they better win tonight. I know that Kirk Bowles has thrown it out there that they better win tonight in the first four against Xavier, which is a little bit of a road game. I don't know. A little bit unfair that they're playing 40 minutes away from home in Dayton. So, I don't know. It's going to be kind of a busy couple weeks here. And I know that the other flip side of it is everything going on with the portal. You see names go in every day, it seems, here by the hour. And, if Oklahoma season comes to an end on Friday, you're going to probably have to start looking to refill the roster.
Yeah, you're going to have to start, seeing, you might even get an indication from any of the players if they decide to hit the portal, then maybe that shows they don't believe that Porter's going to stick around. I think there's someone like a Dayton Forsythe that's going to stick around because he's more about Oklahoma first and foremost than he is about the head coach. But some of those other guys, you might be, let's see, if they start looking around too.
That wouldn't be a bad thing if you have to build around Dayton Forsythe over the next couple of years. Obviously, you need to fill out the backcourt and everybody around him. But, I guess we'll get to that bridge when we get there. And keep your bags packed because you're headed to San Francisco after this to go to the Sweet 16. OU on Friday night, 8:30. A team from a broadcast angle. Yes. I'm super excited about Bill Raftery. I
hope we get an Onions moment.
Oh, that'd be awesome. A little Jeremiah Fears Onions moment.
Yeah, got to be OU side.
Because if it's Aiden Mahaney,
a double order.
An Aiden Mahaney moment from him off the bench, I'll kill myself.
I need a Luke Northweather Onions from Bill Raftery.
That would be another situation that I would have to be revived off the floor if Luke Northweather got one of those moments.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
It'd be fantastic. We'll see.
What's he doing in the game in the final seconds? What's he doing with the
Hitting
ball?
The corner three.
And what's he doing the one
ball?
Taking the shot?
They missed a shot at the rim. It falls out to Luke, and he just knocks one down from the corner. Onions.
That'd be a little Ryan Humphreys moment. Possibly get a little tip in upset special to move on into the NCAA tournament. That'd be fun. It ended up pretty well for Kelvin Sampson's group that year in what was that, 99? Yep. All right, let's get into a little bit of the women's, because here locally, Oklahoma hosting the Norman Regional, matched up with 14 seed Florida Gulf Coast, 30-3. Chelsea Lyles, the head coach. Different coach this year than last year when Oklahoma beat them in the Bloomington Regional 73-70, but a really good team. Obviously, on the other side of it, Iowa, the 6th seed, Murray State, the 11th seed.
How did we not get Bedlam?
I know, it would have been awesome to have Oklahoma State in town. Oklahoma State's playing good basketball too. But yeah, I feel like the storylines right now are all about, OU's going to face Iowa, and what's that look like? Florida Gulf Coast is a good team, and they gave OU a scare a year ago, and they've got some of their best players back. I know their point guard, her name is slipping my mind. I have it here somewhere. Jefferson, Amani Jefferson. She's somebody that's kind of the leader of this group.
ASUN Player of the Year, I believe.
Yeah, she's a baller. They've won 23 in a row, Florida Gulf Coast, and they're dominating these teams. They're 11th in the country in scoring margin. They're beating teams by an average of 19 points per game. So they're not just winning; they're winning by a lot. And so this is a tough team. I think Oklahoma is a matchup problem though for them. When you look at their size, front court? Yeah. You look at the size, like Reagan Beers. I think she's listed at 6'4", 6'5". The tallest player on Florida Gulf Coast is like 6 foot. So Oklahoma should be able to kind of. I think Reagan Beers could have a huge game, and I just think that the 3-ball and the way OU's been shooting it recently, especially Peyton Verhulst, and if they can get Lexi Keys going, they should be able to win this game. But don't be surprised if it's a little closer than what some people are talking about. Like you said, Eddie, they only beat them by 3 a year ago, and a lot of these same girls are back for them. Obviously, Oklahoma has a lot of the same players back. But then the second round matchup, if they get Iowa, which don't count out Murray State either. Murray State's a really good club. But if they get Iowa, it'd be really interesting because obviously they don't have the star power that they did a year ago, and Caitlin Clark. But they've been playing good basketball lately, and they've got a bunch of girls that were on those teams that made those runs to the Final Four. So they've played a lot of basketball.
Oklahoma comes in, obviously, with the run, and we talked about it on the Hoops Report, the run that they made through Greenville and the SEC tournament. Obviously, not even probably, they are playing the best basketball they played all season, though. And a lot of that has had to do with the turnovers have been cut down a little bit. What would Oklahoma, like you were asking about who the X factor for Oklahoma could be outside of the maybe obvious answers, who would that be for you on the women's side?
I would say it's Lexi Keys, because you know what you're getting from your starting five. Raina Scott's going to come in, and she's been the starter at point guard, and she's not going to score a lot, but she kind of runs the flow of the offense. You know what you're getting from Reagan Beers. She's going to give you 20 and 10 probably every single game. You know, Peyton Verhulst, it can kind of be a roller coaster at times, but you know, she's going to be able to light it up and score some points and go on some runs. But if you can get Lexi Keys, who was arguably at the end of last year maybe their best player, her and Skylar Vann, and she started for him a year ago. She just has not been able to hit down her threes as much this year. If you can get her coming off the bench to come in and hit you, I'm talking just 2 or 3 threes, it can make a huge difference. And she just hasn't been able to do that. She's been a key for them defensively. Like, she'd come in and she was, guarding Georgia Amore in that game. They beat Kentucky and did a really nice job, but she also missed some open shots. And if she can start hitting those, I think they can play, not with anybody, obviously. I'm not going to pick them to make a run all the way to the Final Four or anything, but she certainly gives you a better shot and gives you a huge lift off the bench. So that's somebody that I'm watching, as well as, you got to get Skylar Vann going again. She's kind of had a down year, and some of that's just because of the usage with Reagan Beers, but you need your star players to play well, but you also need somebody like Alexi Keys coming off the bench to give you a boost.
The Norman Regional matching up with the Storrs Regional. Obviously, Oklahoma State is being sent up there. They open with South Dakota State. UConn, the big player, the number 2 seed there in the Spokane 4 Regional. Going to be tough, obviously, but I think that, this weekend, in terms of what Jenny's been able to build, it seems extremely important for the women's basketball program to maybe take that next step that everybody's been waiting for.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like every year we talk, can they get to the Sweet 16? It was a couple years ago they hosted a regional and they were a 4 seed and they got run out of the gym by Notre Dame. This year, there's not a team in their regional that they should not beat. Like, you look back at that Notre Dame team. That was
in the Norman Regional.
Yeah, in the Norman Regional.
Pod or whatever.
Right. Like, this team should make the Sweet 16. And they've shown that throughout the year. They've been right on that edge of kind of being a top 10 team. I think that I don't think they have KenPom in women's basketball. It's called the Massey ratings. OU's right there at, I think, number 10 or 11, right behind Duke and NC State. That's where they should be. And this is a team that should be a top 16 team in the country. And it's a tough draw getting UConn if they were to get there. I think UConn's 3rd in the Massey ratings. I'm shocked they didn't get a 1 seed the way they're playing right now. But
don't tell Lindsay Gottlieb that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why USC was upset about their seeding.
That was a strange one, yes.
Yeah, that didn't make any sense. But this is huge for Jenny Baranczyk and getting over that hump. And it's kind of fitting that if she were to get there as a head coach, you'd have to go through her alma mater where, she was one of the most decorated players in school history. I think her and Caitlin Clark are the only 2 players in Iowa history to finish top 10 in scoring, rebounding, steals, assists, all the top categories.
What a badass.
Yeah. So Jimmy Baranczyk was a hooper. So I don't know. This is a big weekend. I hope fans go out. I know some of my friends, my family is actually all going to the game on Saturday. It's Saturday at 1:30, and I know a lot of people want to watch the men's tournament and stuff. But great opportunity. Tickets are cheap. Get out, support this team, because it is a huge advantage to get to play at home. That's a huge boost for Oklahoma, and I know Jenny's kind of put out a call to fans to get them to come out to the LNC.
I think it was said, too, that all of Oklahoma's 7 losses this year have come to teams that are either seeded 1 or 2.
Yeah, that's correct.
That's crazy.
Yeah, because you look back at the one non-con they lost, Duke they might be the hottest team in the country right now. I mean, they're playing unbelievable basketball.
NC State in the ACC championship game.
And obviously the losses to South Carolina and Texas and all of that. And not, South Carolina is, you lose to South Carolina.
Mississippi State is the
Mississippi
lone,
State,
that's
yes.
the lone one.
And they're an 8 seed. I want to say
9 seed. But
9
yeah,
seed.
Playing in the 8-9 game against Cal. They get
so
USC.
tournament team, and you lost that on
and
the
a trip to
on the
Los
road.
Angeles. They get a trip.
So, look, I think they're playing really good right now. They got to limit the turnovers, hit their shots, and like I said, you need Alexi Keys to play well. Nevaeh Tot, if she comes in and plays some minutes, you need her to play well. Don't turn the ball over. Beatrice Colton, Landry Allen, they're so deep, but you need them to come in and contribute. You can't just rely upon your starters.
Get out to the Lloyd Noble Center this weekend. Obviously, okay, so they'll play Saturday at 1:30. We do not know what time, just like the men, do not know what time they would play in the second round, but it would be Monday.
Yes, correct.
Yep. Okay. All right, very good. Look forward to the coverage from Raleigh, as well as, I guess, just down the street in Norman from George, as Bob heads out. Illinois fan Bob, does he have a preference on Xavier or Texas tonight for the Illini?
Oh, I think it'd be fun if my Illini could take out Texas.
Do you have any comment on them embarrassing John Wooden in the sport of basketball in the Big Ten tournament last Friday, losing by 30? That was an ass beating.
It was much worse than that in the first half.
I have no idea what Illinois is. Illinois is.
I don't know.
You could pick them to go to the Final Four. You could pick them to get beat by Xavier or Texas.
Yep.
I do not know. Busy around here. Real quick before we get out of here. Softball, 26-0. They sweep Arkansas, the doubleheader on Saturday. They get the game on Sunday. The beat goes on.
The beat goes on, and they're finding a way to win, and we're finding out that Sam Landry is your unquestioned ace. If you were looking for one, you've got one. Her missing that weekend versus South Carolina compared to her being part of the rotation against the Razorbacks was a night and day difference. The way Gabby Garcia, Nellie McEnroe, Marinas are coming up huge time and time again as freshmen, and there is a lot to like going into Missouri this weekend.
East Texas A&M, formerly Texas Commerce, coming up on Wednesday for a midweek, and then headed up to Columbia, Missouri this weekend. I don't think that there's any connections back to Missouri. They haven't really seen them in a while. I think that JT Gasso said that they were in the same regional. Does that sound right? Maybe 2 years ago?
Yes, it does.
But outside of that, Missouri, good team.
They
not the upper
they were
echelon.
Expected to be upper echelon, but they haven't.
And they're not. They
yet.
suck.
That was their coach talked about it, not liking playing softball in February for schools like that because you don't have a real climate that you can control, that you can be prepared. She's going all these tournaments and they fell flat on their face, and you just felt you weren't prepared because the weather in Missouri was not optimal for what you're trying to get done.
Blaming your record on the weather is a bit of a. I don't know.
Well, they always say that Oklahoma in February is exactly where you want to be.
Yeah.
Missouri 17-13, 0-3 in conference play. They got swept by Kentucky. They have won 6 in a row though going into this weekend. I guess their first series, they stepped out of conference play last weekend is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, they've needed to get right quickly because they were ranked, I believe, in the top 15 initially, and the pollsters gave them a couple weeks hey, we get it. You're playing a lot of elite teams. Eventually, it's not just playing them. You got to start beating them, and they did not do a very good job. Obviously, trying to get the bounce back. We'll see. I hate to say it. You expect OU to sweep, but that's just the way that they've played at this level and how they've performed on the road was a great sign for things to come.
Gabby Garcia has been incredible. It seems like she just hits a home run every game. What's going on with Ella Parker right now?
The thing with Cassidy Pickering and Ella Parker, and it's not supposed to be a bad thing, I almost think they're too patient for their own good. They really
get a little aggressive.
They walk a lot, but they let some pitches go, and it's sometimes, just hammer it. Just go get it and smack it. You can, instead of, waiting for the perfect pitch, because I really feel like when they lead with those two, you're almost guaranteed one of them's going to walk because that's just the way that they operate. But it would be so great to just see him first pitch swinging, hit it over the fence, start feeling good about yourself again.
All right, very good. Baseball opening up, I guess, the inaugural, I think that'd be used correctly, home series against Mississippi State in SEC play. Took 2 or 3 over the weekend in South Carolina. Unbelievable comeback on Sunday, scoring 2 in the ninth to force extras, especially after falling behind in that game. Pretty good resolve there. We'll see. I think they're going to be pretty good. Kate Crossland is moving into the starting rotation this weekend. Kyson Witherspoon Friday, Kate Crossland Saturday, Malachi Witherspoon Sunday. I think they just want to break it up, right, left, right. I was talking to Josh Calloway about this last night at the UTA game. It just seems like you see Kyson on Friday and then you run Malachi back out there on Saturday. It's like you're looking at the same thing. Maybe Malachi obviously doesn't throw as hard as Kyson, but
so you're seeing the great version, and we're not saying Malachi's bad. But
Malachi's going to be great eventually.
Like you already have a good feel of the timing and what you need to do.
A little bit. It kind of seems like that. I don't know. We'll see. I think Kate Crossland's been fantastic, though. He pitched 4 2/3 in relief on Sunday. For Cam Johnson, who continued to struggle a little bit on Tuesday night. That's going to continue to be a work in progress, but overall, can't complain. Jackson Willis was 4 for 4 last night. He's starting to hit the ball extremely hard and find some holes, which he hadn't been in the first couple of weeks of the season. So baseball, so far, so good, 18-2.
Eddie, I had a question.
Yeah.
As they kind of get into conference play, what do you think the record in conference play needs to be in the conversation to host?
Funny you say that. I heard Toby Rowland talking about this on one of the broadcasts from Columbia over the weekend. The common thought is if you're 13-17 in the SEC, 30-game schedule, you usually get into the NCAA tournament. Anything better than that, you're probably going to be talking about hosting in Norman. And then obviously anything better than that, maybe you're in super regional discussion. It's just crazy to look at the polls this week, and Oklahoma's in like 3 of the top 10, and they're basically unanimously about 6th in the conference. And
baseball and softball.
They're 9th or 10th in the country.
It's great.
It's unbelievable.
Top 10s are just littered with it.
It's a different world, man. I'm excited.
We're part of
it
it now.
I know, and I'm excited about it because I think that obviously softball is going to have massive series in Norman here moving forward.
Tennessee next weekend.
It's next weekend, Tennessee. That's going to be awesome. OU obviously will be out of town next weekend going to Tuscaloosa, but the home schedules for both these teams phenomenal. Maybe the best baseball schedule they've ever had. The crowd was great on Tuesday night, and I only expect them to continue to get bigger here as we move forward and as they continue to rack up series wins. So win 2 or 3. Maybe you get to sweep on the weekends at home. Just find a way to win one, and I think you'll be pretty good moving forward on the baseball side of things. So should be fun. All right, that's going to do it. That was a full NCAA tournament breakdown. George, any thoughts, concerns, criticisms of the National Invitational Tournament? Big game for my UCI Irvine Anteaters tonight.
Did Oklahoma State play last night?
They won.
They won. What tournament are they in?
They're in the NIT.
They're in the NIT.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I don't understand the crown
The
thing.
crown, I know.
It's basically they wanted to take the top 2 teams from the Big East,
That
Big
don't
12, and Big 10, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep.
But I think
Not
that
every team
Why
wanted
don't
to be
they
involved.
they just need to get rid of
Kansas
these extra
State
tournaments.
and the Rutgers of the world,
West Virginia.
Virginia.
Those teams like, nope, we're done.
They had other ideas.
Well, the transfer portal just kind of ruins it because the teams that they can't even field a team half the time.
I agree.
I think they'll find that out in a couple weeks.
And the whole thing about like not playing, like the one good thing I like about the NIT is we get right into it. We had games last night. We'll have games tonight, and the crown doesn't start till like March 31st.
March 31st, and
you're on head to head with Sweet 16 weekend, and then obviously the Final Four.
Getting right into it, I guess Wichita State hadn't practiced.
Yeah. They looked like they hadn't practiced.
That goes back to what Porter said last year, if you remember. It's like some of these teams know they're NIT bound. They know it. They know as soon as they lose their conference tournament, they need to start getting ready. We thought we were in the real thing, and then 10 minutes later, they're telling us, you've got to make a decision.
And then you have the NIT inviting South Alabama. They had to rescind the offer because of UC Riverside, who just got their ass beat last night in the NIT. Although I do think that Santa Clara is pretty good. Shout out Herb Sendek.
Sendek, there's a name from the past.
J-Dub, Santa Clara.
Coached 2 All-Stars. Kind of crazy. Or 2 guys that are in the NBA. Didn't the point guard from Golden State go there? The kid that came back last
Curry?
night? No, Podchetsky or whatever. White kid that maybe isn't white. I don't know. Kind of looks white. Good player, though. He had a good game last night. Either way, should be exciting. I love this time of the year. We will be back a month from now to preview the Masters. We'll bring George and Bob back for that. All right, that's going to do it. Thank you to Josh. Thank you to Carey. and good luck to everybody out there as we enter March Madness. You're not going to get a perfect bracket, but maybe you will. Bye-bye.